Welcome to the new start of a day here in South Africa. It is a glorious sunrise. There are a few clouds that are glowing as the sun begins to rise. This is a wonderful way to start the day. My name is Tristan. On camera today I have got a Senzo. There's the typical three fingers, who's 1 year older as of yesterday. So I think Senzo had a nice birthday. Did you have a nice birthday, Senzo? Senzo did have a nice birthday. Right, now it is that time of the year where we are gearing up towards a TV show from the 4th to the 8th of February, and that means that all of you could stand the chance to come out here and witness the sunrise for yourself. It is Safari Bingo time, which means that you can also get involved. You just need to go to natgeo.com/Safari Live for all the rules and regulations on how it works. Right. Now, the plan is for this morning is that we're going to head off towards where we last had tracks for Tanya. We're going to try and see if we can find her. She's been milling around Chelapan yesterday by the sounds of things. That's where Herbie and Scott found tracks. So we want to try and see if we can find them just to confirm how the little cub is doing, because I know there's still some worry from a lot of you. Now, if you saw anything on the dam cam, remember that you can also help us out because we are interactive. And so #Safari Live on Twitter or the YouTube chat if you did. I know the lions were seen there last night. Scotty D took some of the staff out for a little bumble, and he saw some of the Angama pride around that area. So just wondering which way maybe they went, or if there was anything else that showed up later in the evening. If the dam cam was up and running, I think it was. I did see some screenshots for it. Right, now the thing is that it's been quite quiet this morning. There's been no sort of indication of any lions roaring, any leopards sawing, any impalas snorting, and so, well, we're going to have to just rely on our tracking abilities this morning rather than our ears, because it seems as though it's all a little quiet at this stage. It also looks like it's going to be an absolute scorcher of a day because the clouds are starting to drift away and starting to separate, and that sun is coming up and it looks quite fierce already. So I think we're in for a beautiful, beautiful start to the morning, which is going to get quite hot quite quickly. So hopefully we'll be able to get onto some tracks early towards the start of the drive and be able to find said animal before it decides to rest up in the shade for the remainder of the day. So I think we're going to find Tandy and Cub. Okay, excellent. 10, we have to. Yes, we do. You're right. Now we're going to try and see if we can find this female. Now while we do that, my team is out and about. I didn't hear Nikki as to who it is, but I'm going to guess that it is maybe Steph, maybe it is James, who knows. We've got the two senior statesmen with us this morning, and well, either one will be entertaining, as I'm sure you'll agree.
Thanks, Tristan. It's definitely Steph this morning. As they say, red sky in the morning is a shepherd's warning and the harbinger of some foul weather on the way. Well, not so foul. South Africa's in the grip of another one of these droughts. Cape Town's D-Day is approaching very, very fast, where they run out of water in all the municipal reservoirs for water, and where we are suffering through another what seemingly is piece of the drought that just doesn't want to break after all those years of no rain. But anyway, like that sun heralded there, hopefully these clouds start to boil over through the day, and this afternoon's game drive is wet and uncomfortable, but at least bringing some much needed moisture. I am Steph Winterbull. We're on a walk today here at Djuma, and it's very good for me to be back on the camera again. I must be honest, it's been a few weeks. I think the last time I was standing in front of VM like I am now was around about the 14th or the 15th of December, and I can feel the rust still clogging up all the wheels inside my head, to be honest. All right, so we're going to be heading off, as Tristan said, to have a look and see if we can find those lion or any leopard on the property at the moment. We've got some elephant trumpeting in that direction. We heard a lion over there, and hopefully we'll be able to give you an update when we see you next time.
What a start to the sunrise safari, with a standoff between two sworn enemies, I suppose, if we could put it like that. You can't really blame the buffalo for being sworn enemies. With the lions, we have the Olololo pride coming down the escarpment live from the Masai Mara in Kenya. What a start to our morning out here. Now the buffalo have actually ganged together, and there's a good chance they're going to go and chase. There we go, there goes one. There we go. So they're dashing about. We're parked at a very awkward angle out here. But you can see how upset the buffalo are. There's a lot of mooing, I suppose, bellowing coming from the buffalo. And the lions know that they're okay. They're keeping an eye on them. The cubs are now experienced enough that they are not threatened, but buffalo have been known to crush young cubs to death if they find them unattended without their mothers. So a group of largely bulls, in fact it might all be bulls, yeah, and one cow, all buffalo bulls chasing the lions back, and this is right below our camp, everyone. This is right underneath it. Here we go. Lion not sticking around. They know that they are much faster than the buffalo, so there's no real reason to panic. As long as they don't get too overconfident, they'll be absolutely fine. You can see the cubs slinking off, not taking any chances. Remember, this is 100% live. Hashtag Safari Live is how you can get hold of us, or questions on whatever platform you're watching on. Look at him go. Not having it. Just keep an eye, make sure that they're not chasing me at the same time. It's happened to me before. You get what's known as sort of misplaced aggression from an upset animal like a buffalo or an elephant. When they're chasing a predator, they somehow decide to lump you into that category. Look at these lions. There's 17 lions here, and they all keep popping up all over the show. It's like a buffalo's game of whack-a-mole. It just heads everywhere. Lioness is backing away. I remember this is the same pride that had a dead buffalo up at the top of the hill not too long ago. So they represent a very real threat to these buffalo. It's unlikely with the 4 females that they'll tackle them, but not impossible. Last time they killed the buffalo around here, they had 2 males with them. Oh, cubs are being cheeky. Now the rest of the herd is moving in. Just watch this situation play out. Here we go. And just to check from final control if we still have signal, if you're still managing to see all of this. Oh, listen to the buffalo. I don't know if you can hear that. Now we're going all the way over the side of the hill. Okay, right, let's try and reposition now. Very good morning to all of you. Let's try and get us around behind the buffalo. Hopefully we still have signal. My name is Jamie. This morning Adrian is on camera with me. We also have Steve in the back, who is getting an idea of the lay of the land. We don't have much time to chat about that though. Hold on. Hold on. Let's try and get ourselves around without inspiring or attracting ire. Followed by was with the sausage, the little sausage pride, the win your pride. Apparently, shaky, unfortunately.
My goodness, can you believe it? How dare those gremlins do that so early in the morning, and for something so exciting. Welcome everybody. I was racing on to try and find my jackal pups before the sun actually rose. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Archie, although I can't see him because he's all wrapped up. Is it a bit cold this morning, Arch? It is quite chilly today. I was silly by wearing shorts, but it's laundry day, so that's all I've got left. So the layers are on. For those of you that have just joined us, well, sorry that you've ended up with me. Hopefully Jamie will be able to get into a better position so that you can see the action unfold between the Lions and the Buffalo. It's always quite exciting. It's nice when the tables turn every now and then. So like I said, we're going to be heading towards the Jackals and hopefully find the Marsh Breakaway Lions, maybe even the Jackals. You know, they're a bit of a gamble every now and then. Sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not. Maybe a black rhino. It'd be quite nice. I haven't seen a black rhino for a while. But if this is your first time joining us on a safari, it's great to have you on board. Remember, you can ask us questions because it's live and interactive. Now, it's awake just yet. A couple of giraffe here and there, but hopefully as we get past this little quiet spot where no one seems to be eating any grass at the moment, we'll go around on one of my favorite roads and do a normal route that I like to do. It's one of my favorite routes to do first thing in the morning. It's really quite productive. You could hear the birds chattering. Maybe a Scallows Tarocco could be on the card, as all the Diaspires trees against the Mara River. Now, I'm so sorry, I had a little bit of comms break up there. Megan, could you tell me what Nikki said? Sorry, I think you'll do it a bit quicker. There's a little bit of a delay between us and Djuma, so sometimes when I don't hear anything, I can't. There we go. All sorts of gremlins this morning. So what I'll do is I'll send you back down to South Africa to say good morning to Mr. Father Time.
Taylor McCurdy is the least funny human being I've ever met in my life. I'd like you to tell her that the next time you see her. Good morning. I hope you're all very well. How very unkind of her. My name is James Henry. I am the oldest presenter at Safari Live. But I'm not that old. On camera today we've got Sebastian. Very done. On my left I have Marvin the Matrice. Very nice. And we have got Ronald the Rover, Mark III over here. There he is. Look at his spanky new outfit that he's wearing. Doesn't he look smart? Very nice. We're not sure if he'd actually broadcast anything with this outfit on, but it is slightly more animal-proof than the last one he had. So that's Ronald. And then we have got the microscope on board as well. So we are fully kitted for a day of amusing fun here in the wilderness. My plan is to head down towards Twin Dams, see what we can find that end. Not sure what that might be. And the first thing I'm going to show to you is a picturesque scene of the sun coming up through some dead branches with some birds. I think they are grey-headed sparrows. How magnificent. Please do talk to us during the course of the show using the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. Otherwise you can use the chat stream on YouTube. Is that not pretty? Ooh. You're not going to be able to see this, but the birds are... Oh, they've gone now. There was a plum-coloured starling, or violet-backed starling, and that is a fork-tailed drongo. Isn't that beautiful? Another gorgeous sunrise has occurred here in the wilds of the Sabi sand in the Great Kruger National Park, South Africa. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like there's going to be any rain today either. And I'm starting to get a little distressed by the dryness of the landscape. Hello, Jem. You say I have all the toys this morning. Yes, I do have all the toys, Jem. I'm very lucky to have all the toys on the car this morning. We are, of course, driving Jigger. And I used to refer to all of our vehicles here at Djuma in disparaging terms until I drove the horror shows that we have in the Mara. Now I will never complain about these recalcitrant old ladies again. That really is just very spectacular. A couple of birds calling, quite a sort of subdued, shall we say, chamber music version of the dawn chorus today. Some drongos going bleep. The scimitar bill going like a clarinet. Some grey-headed sparrows. Yip, 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 yip. Very quiet. Oh, BJ, you ask, have I ever been misled by the fake alarm call of the fork-tailed drongo? I probably have, but I probably haven't realized it, BJ. So what drongos do is, of course, they imitate other birds, for those of you who don't know, and so you can be conned into thinking that they are something else. They're not very good mimics, though. They try very hard at mimicking other birds, but they're not very good, so you can normally tell if it is a drongo that's doing the mimicking. Unlike some of the robin species, for example. Surprisingly quiet, I must say. See what else we can hear briefly. Just a few Franklin calls. An oxpecker. And now, as we contemplate the sunrise and the subdued dawn chorus, let us head across to Tristan Dix and find out how his sunrise is progressing.
Well, James, my sunrise is pretty much non-existent, given that I am deep in the bowels of the Mulawati drainage and therefore can't see much of a sun at all at this stage. It is starting to slowly peak up on the left-hand side, but you really can't see anything at all. It's just a bit of a glow behind all of the trees. So I did see it a little bit earlier, though. It was spectacular as I was coming down into the Mulawati. It was just coming up over the horizon, and it looked very, very pretty. Now, the reason why we're down in the Mulawati, we're behind Chelapan at the moment, and we're just checking around to see if there's any fresh signs of Tandy and cub in this area, or if they maybe moved off yesterday somewhere. So far, though, I can't find any signs whatsoever. I don't see any tracks that are new. It's only the tracks from yesterday that Herbie and Scott were following on foot, and so I'm not sure if she was in this area. I don't think so, to be honest. I think she must have moved somewhere else. So what I'm going to do is just do some loops around. I'm going to check Nyala Road South, and then I'll go down Drakensberg, come along Battelier, see if she's not in some of those areas. Maybe she went back towards where that carcass was, and maybe there's a situation where she's kind of just gone to investigate where Tinyo stole her kills. So that's what we're going to hope for, at least just a track to give us an idea of where we need to head. And so while we do that, and talking about lions stealing things, I believe Taylor McCurdy has lions of her own.
Almost drove over this morning. We have a carpet of cats laying on the road. On my favourite road, my favourite route. One of my favourite things, being lions. And also, I have to show you what else is around, because it's beautiful. Not only are the frogs and things already chirping, but the hot air balloons are up. And this is honestly one of the most iconic scenes you can see when you come to Kenya, is to have any animal in the same picture as a hot air balloon. I feel like that's a stock standard photo that needs to be taken while you're here. So there we go, add that to your bucket list. Or maybe you can be lucky like me and see lions from the hot air balloon and have them stare straight up at you. That's also quite cool. But look how thick that mist is this morning. Just laying over the 4x4 area, which is normally where this pride of lions that we're looking at like to lay around. It'd be quite cool to see lions hunting in the mist. Maybe they go that way. Hopefully they go that way. I don't know if I've ever seen lions hunting in the mist before. No, I don't think I have. So that would be really, really nice. But there are 3 lioness here. Is it 3? And a youngster? By the looks of it. I wonder who we've got. Will probably be the marsh breakaways. This is their favorite area. No, it's not. It's 4 lioness. So I'm still going to stick with the marsh breakaways. Obviously, one of the other lioness, you know, those 2 that sort of hang around on their own and occasionally join. They're here. So where's the 5th one? I wonder where the 5th girl is. I know Ralph had some of them yesterday, had one lioness. Perhaps she was, and I know that was far off into the corner of the forest. Oh, this is cool. It almost looks like there's frost on the grass this morning, but it isn't. It's all just dew. And the contrasting colours are quite impressive. You see the green growing right next to the road. There's quite a bit of water that hangs around on the edges of the road. So, of course, that stays nice and green. And then as soon as you move towards that oat grass, it gets quite tall and sort of has a reddish, tawny tinge, almost matching the lion's coloration. Oh, I don't know if I'd like to lay on that cold grass. Here we go, big stretch, girl. They don't look thin, that's for sure. They're looking very healthy at the moment. And I think they're scanning their surroundings to see what else has happened. Now, I know it's very exciting, but there's something else that's just popped up to say hello. Something that will hopefully warm these lions up and also warm my very cold legs up, and that's the sun. It's just popping up to the east on the horizon, and it's quite beautiful. In fact, I'm just going to steal your attention and show you the sun. It's important that we appreciate the sun and have a look at the sun. Most mornings it's so overcast and thick we don't actually get a view until it's quite high up in the sky. There it is, just rising above the forest, which we all love so much, where the Scallows Turacos will be, Ross's Turacos, probably some Narina Trogans, the odd cuckoo here and there. But I can't hear any of them calling, as usual. The rufous-napped lark has stolen the show. Isn't that absolutely gorgeous? I'm going to miss these mornings. I really am. It is so incredible out here. There've very few words I can use to try and describe this. Now, child of the universe, as we slowly go across past the hot air balloons back to the lions, you're wondering if that lioness who was staring at was nursing. Possibly. There are some young cubs in the Marsh Breakaway Pride. There's 3 youngsters. I sadly think, and I obviously need to confirm this if we see the cubs again, but there were 4 new lion cubs, and unfortunately, that are what? I mean, I feel very sad because I've only been seeing 3. We'll need to confirm this, though. We know that, unfortunately, lions are not the most successful when it comes to making it to adulthood. So, and then there's also some older cubs that are at the point where they're going to stop suckling soon, but they're naughty. They have the odd sneaky suckle here and there. So yes, there are. There are at least 2 lionesses in this pride that are suckling youngsters at the moment. Oh my goodness, I cannot tell you how spectacular it is out this morning. It's so refreshing. And with all the hot air balloons going around, lions. That one lioness is very keen. I don't know if she's seen something in the distance. Perhaps she's seen a warthog emerging, a burrow. Their eyesight is good enough to be able to spot something like that. I'm not really sure what else she could have seen. Isn't that gorgeous though? I'm just in awe of the beautiful sounds. Right, well, we're definitely going to be following this lionesses because I think we may have some action here if we keep up with them. Jamie's already had some action. Let's go back across to her and find out what happened when the lions were chased by the buffalo.
I'm sorry, I could tell you exactly what happened when the lions chased the buffalo. No, sorry, the buffalo chased the lions. We lost our signal, and no matter how I tried to shuffle around them, there was absolutely nothing I could do. They went further down into the forest, which obviously the further down you go, the weaker the signal gets, so it was just disastrous. So we had to leave them, but it had pretty much calmed down at that point. You saw the best of it, because after that there was one buffalo bull that sort of tried to chase some of the cubs, but the cubs weren't really interested in even goading them. So they just all moved down towards the river, and that was largely that. Most of the buffalo went back to feeding, and we had to leave. But we do have something very pretty to show you instead. Let me just get a little bit closer. The gentle purr of the diesel engine. I can't believe James was so rude about our cars. It's because he doesn't have to drive them. You cannot risk being that rude about the vehicles in front of them, otherwise they break down. They're very sensitive souls. Just ask Mila, the car that Taylor was driving yesterday. We had to tow her back all the way up the hill. Say what you want, but this vehicle dragged a 1.5-ton vehicle up the hill last night. It's quite a big hill. One might even call it a mountain, but certainly not a molehill. There we go. Something very pretty to look at on a misty morning. Oh, and I've managed to park off on the side of the road. There we go. A journey of a giraffe wandering through the open plains. Isn't that pretty? I'm sorry, Nix, I completely missed what you said. I was busy waving to another vehicle. Something about the sun. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, it's lots. We'll go from 6 to lots. And an elephant that also wants to be involved as well. He's now moving towards us. Now, what are all of you staring at? Are you staring for a reason? Or are you just staring because it's giraffe? No, you're not all staring in the same direction. So typically anti-predator behavior, when it comes to giraffe, they'll actually stare in the direction of a potential threat. And we have found all sorts of predators by following the stares of giraffe. There we go. There's the elephant that wanted to be in the shot. Right, I finally heard what it was that Nikki said. She's a bit confused, topsy-turvy this morning. She would like to send you over to Taylor and the sunset.
Yep, Jamie, I wish it was the end of the day, but sadly it's just starting out for you and I. At least it's not a bad way to start. We've got 2 more hot air balloons floating past the sun, and it's always amazing to get, I think, screenshots. You are going to hear a lot of vehicles coming past as the balloon safaris, as you can imagine. The team on the ground that have got to sort out breakfast. They've got to put everything up together. The tractors coming to collect the basket. They're all on the move, wondering where on earth the balloons will stop today. Isn't that so great? We're going to have an eclipse. Eclipse by hot air balloon. Very cool. Oh wow, I'm so envious of everybody up in the sky. It is the most gorgeous morning, and how cool is that I said maybe someone will see lines from a hot air balloon. I reckon they would have spotted these lines already. Look how great that is. You have to throw everything off of your wish list, and you've got to put doing a safari in the Mara Triangle and going on a hot air balloon to the top. You got to do that. I promise you, you will not regret it. It is the most amazing experience. Sorry, there's tractors coming past us now. After this tractor, then we will have one more vehicle coming past us, but we have stopped on the highway this morning, I'm afraid. Where the animals go, well, so do we, and they don't really care where they go. I suppose we're intruding, aren't we? We try and intrude as little as possible, but well, and they don't mind the cars too much. But that's really cool just to watch the hot air balloons as they go along. Now, one of the most amazing things that I found from being up in the hot air balloon is when you float over those forests, the pathways that are going through there are just incredible. I mean, the walks that you'd be able to do, it would be amazing. They're all old river courses that I'm sure fill up when they get the big rains, but they hadn't looked like they'd been filled for quite some time. And the rhinos that you see down in there too, in the little pockets, the openings, is quite nice. Look at that, 4 hot air balloons floating across the marsh. over some waterbuck. There's lots of different animals, some buffalo. I'm sure they'll be seeing the odd hippo also marching back towards the Mara River, or perhaps their favorite lugger. A few birds flying here and there too. You can hear the odd hardy-dar ibis. That's magical. Right, should we go back to our lions? I'm going to drive a little bit closer to our lions now that all the vehicles have moved on off. Wow, that's honestly all I have to say about that. What a great way to wake up. And I was tired this morning. I didn't want to get out of bed, which is unusual for me because normally I'm an early riser and I don't sleep much. But today it was so cold and I was wrapped up in my duvet as if I was I was in a cocoon. And then I eventually woke up and then realized that I don't have any long pants on. But this is warm here. This has definitely got the adrenaline going. Now you can see the lions are very relaxed with us. They don't mind us at all. Hello, kitty cats. Are you also enjoying the view this morning? It kind of looks like that, the way they keep turning their heads. I'm sure they're spotting the next victim, unfortunately. But it's quite nice to think that they were just enjoying the balloons floating past the sky. Perhaps they've also never seen an eclipse via hot air balloon. But they're fixated on something. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to, apologize if it moves a bit. I'm just shuffling around. I just want to get my binoculars out and try and stare in the direction that these lions are looking at. The only thing I can see so far is a big group of waterbuck. Are you looking at them, or are you looking a little bit further away? Now we know the further we go in towards that swampy marsh area, we know there's lots of warthog burrows. Seeing some topi too, a couple of topi, not too many of them around. But I haven't seen any warthog bottoms just yet. I think it's a bit too chilly for them to come out. But hopefully, as now the sun warms up, because it will warm everything up, start drying the lions off. Hopefully they'll take us somewhere. Hello, old girl. You can see she's definitely one of the moms. Off she goes. Now the only problem is if they decide to cross the sort of open section, there aren't very many roads, so we'd have to do quite a detour to go around to try and anticipate their movements and hope that they keep going in that direction. I would assume maybe they're going to go for the waterbuck. I think you girls can do it. You can do that quite easily, in fact. And they've got nice tall grass to conceal themselves. Who knows, they might flush something out as they move through this grass. Could be lots of different animals just laying down. But they're the waterbuck that I was telling you about. They're quite far away, as you can see. Very far away, in fact. I would say about 1 kilometer or so. Just in the middle. They haven't quite woken up either. They're just also getting to the stretching position. I'm sure then they'll start grazing. No elephants in the marsh just yet. They haven't made their way there. I think a lot of them ran away from that storm that was coming in. Wow. Look at that. You might be able to hear the hot air balloons every now and then. That. Otherwise, there's lots of other creatures doing a lot of talking today, including myself. Oh, you can even just very, very, very see as she's breathing. Let's see if we can see it. I can't believe they're sitting in the wet like that. It must be so chilly. Of course I say this, but they're kind of used to it. Right. Like I said, we're going to keep following these cats, and hopefully they're going to go on the hunt this morning in the marsh for waterbuck, topi, maybe the odd warthog. But I'll send you back down to the Sabi sand, the land of the leopards. And I think Steph is out this morning. He's on foot. I wonder what cool little things he's got to show you.
You know, it is such a contrast between the Mara, which is green and vibrant and it rains every afternoon, to Djuma, almost shockingly so, to be honest with you. I've just returned back after being in the Mara for a couple of months, and I'm flabbergasted at how dry it is over here. This is what this pan should be looking in about June, July, under normal conditions, and this mud is already dry. If we don't get rain today or tomorrow, By the day after tomorrow, 48 hours from now, this mud will be completely dry, and then that will be it. And this is one of the important water sources in this particular area. This is a naturally formed pan. This wasn't man-made in any way. This is how Mother Nature intends pans to be, and this is about as big as a pan gets in this particular area. This is called Chele Pan, for those of you who like to know where we're walking around, and is a very big collection point for a lot of animals. This was the last place that Thandi was seen, or her tracks were seen. There were some lions here. It seemed like they were here last night. And lots and lots of elephant tracks all over the place. And as you can see from the swishes and the whirls in the mud that VM was showing you, that it is a very popular place for elephant to come and coat their skins with mud and stave off the heat of the day, which has been intense. Yesterday was a day that was in the high 90s, and it looks like today is shucking up to be exactly the same. Wow. It really is quite shocking, I must be honest with you. Last year this time, we were sitting neck deep in grass, vibrant green. The year before that, looked exactly like this. Just dead, dry, desiccated plants. You can see the gaps between the bushes there. That you shouldn't be able to see this time of the year. Those gaps should be completely filled with vegetation, especially this close to sort of semi-permanent water. This is incredible. Cheryl, you'd like to know if the marula fruit are ripe now and in abundance. They absolutely are. I have 2 marula trees in my garden in Hoedspruit, and the fruit is falling everywhere. I was on a telephone last night on top of quarantine clearings, and the fruit was dropping and plopping around me on the grass. So what we could do, we'll keep our eye open for some fruiting marula trees at the moment, and we'll definitely share some with you. I haven't had a marula this season yet, even though I've seen a whole lot of their fruit. So if I find a nice one today, we'll share it with you. There should be quite a few around at the moment. It has been a little bit drier here than what it has been actually, no, that's not the truth. It's been a little bit wetter here than it has been in Hoedspruit, a little bit further north. The drought seems to extend from just south of here, north, all the way to the Limpopo River on the northern border of South Africa. Tristan has just spent some of his holiday at a camp in the sort of 3/4 of the way up the Kruger Park from the south at a place called Shingwedzi. And he says to me that there's so little water there, the buffalo are dropping dead on the pathways and really battling to find enough food to eat there. And then it sort of goes all the way to around an area called Punda Maria, are apparently just all dry and not quite leafless. It's a pretty tropical place, but definitely not as vibrant and as full as what they should be. Hannah, you'd like to know if or how much of the wildlife will move away because of there being no water in this area. That's actually a very good question. And the reason for that is that the Kruger National Park is actually big enough for there to be seasonal migration. So animals can react to a degree, north and south, to water, to go to areas where there's more water, basically. And again, referring to Tristan's holiday, which took him from the very north of the Kruger National Park all the way to the south, the Crocodile River. He said that the grass is so thick it's hiding buffalo in the Crocodile River, that all the buffalo are standing on the water's edge and have gone down there for the grass. There's very few big bull elephant in the northern part of the Kruger, 1 or 2 herds. All the elephant have moved down. Wildebeest would have moved. Buffalo, giraffe would have moved. Kudu. I've heard some reports from friends of mine that are working in 60 kilometers or so from here, and north of here, that even lions have moved out of their pride lands. And that's quite rare for a lion to do. Generally speaking, lions will hold on to the very last. As we see with the skinny Nkuhumas, they are holding wetlands protected. But when there's no food, there's no food. They need to move. So hopefully that doesn't happen with them, and we get some rain this afternoon and that bright red sunshine this morning. All right, we're going to be sending you all the way to the north and to Jamie. We'll catch up with you later.
Would a morning in the Mara be without a visitor to our perfectionists? The pair of hammerkop that we've been following over the last... Taylor started following them, she says, about 2 months ago now, as they collect nest material and continue with the construction of an enormous nest, and what will ultimately be the largest nest of any individual pair of birds. Oh, leopard! Oh my gosh, I wondered what they were about. How incredible! Ah, no, this female, she's so skittish. Try and get screenshots. If she stands still, she's not going to... Oh, what a surprise. I wondered what they were fussing about. Okay, we're going to try go very slowly for one last view. Unfortunately, this female is so skittish. I've seen her before around here. Adrian, you lucky star. You are my lucky star. No, we're going to go see if we can see this leopard. We probably won't, unfortunately, and I don't want to scare her. Let's go. Let's go nice and slowly. She'll feel more comfortable when she's got more cover. So once she's covered this ground, once she's got a bit more cover, she might actually stop. We're going to go really slowly, keep looking. What a nice surprise! What was that? Huh. Shame. She's probably been hiding there as all of those vehicles came past earlier to go and fetch the balloon. And she's just been waiting for the opportunity, and then she couldn't hide anymore because the hammerkorps were just harassing her. Honestly, I think that will be our last view of her. I've tried before with this leopard and she just isn't having any of it. We'll have to start our habituation process when we find her with a kill, which will happen eventually. And that was cool. Okay. I don't want to go trundling off-road in case we actually drive right up next to her and give her a fright. I think she's probably gone into the trees. Let's just check everywhere. Well, there was a nice surprise. You see, it just goes to show. First we stopped and we saw the fight between the hammerkorps and the Egyptian geese. Sometimes you've got to stop and watch the painstaking stuff. I can't believe a leopard just ran out. I'm not having a bad morning, you know, as mornings go. Buffalo chasing lions, leopard comes running out. I'm just going to be quiet for a little bit just to listen for the birds. There she is. Straight ahead. Straight ahead there through that gap. There. Go, zoom. Straight in there. Straight towards the trees. Okay, a bit to the right. She's just gone in there. I just saw her tail disappear. Sorry, it was such a brief flash. No, she's gone into the trees. She was there. She was there. Very tricky for Adrian to have even thought of seeing that. It was just a flash of tail. Sorry, I'm sitting with my binoculars on my eyes, muffling the microphone. Apparently we are experiencing a little bit of black screen every now and again, some breakup. I'm sorry about that, everyone. I don't know why. I'm looking at... I don't know why. I think that's the last of our leopard, everyone. I don't think any of us would have managed to get some good screenshots. Of course, we're trying to help learn about the different leopards of the Masai Mara. And I doubt we would have got anything there. But oh, what is that there? Zoom in there. Is that a bird that's flat down a little? There. Is that a bird? Oh, it's a bird on a branch. Sorry, never mind. It's a bird on a branch. Okay. Right, shall we go back and watch the hammerkorp? What else is going to come through? Cheetah, striped hyena, you know, an aardvark, pangolin. Who knows? Okay, we're a little bit away from the hammerkorp nest now. We're just going to have to do some shuffling. I'm really glad I was positioned in the... There's a reason I always turn around and park the other way, because that's where the hammerkorp usually collect their sticks. So I'm really glad we were facing the direction we were facing, or she could easily have run past behind us. And we would just have wondered what the hammerkorps were fussing over. Oh, that was a nice surprise. I'm obviously not going to follow her towards the forest. First of all, that whole section is filled with muddy holes that we could easily drive into in our own gain, and it's not... It's one of the one. It's the one of the about months ago now. Also in this forest, and we never got a good idea, or never managed to even put them on camera. Okay. Now we can go and get some nice backlit hammerkorp construction. What are those shows about home makeovers and so on? Those reality TV shows? Ah, there we go. In comes one of them with a bowl full of leaves. Nice soggy leaves. I feel as though they've managed to collect every stick in a sort of, I don't know, 200-yard radius, and they're now having to travel a little bit further afield. And now the meticulous work begins. That one irritating piece of grass that just doesn't quite work there. But she knows she bought it for a reason. It just doesn't fit where she's put it. Now she's got to find something else to go with it. A story familiar to all people who enjoy shopping, I think. I'm assuming. I'm afraid I don't count myself amongst that number. Does anyone else feel as though this nest hasn't grown? Or is it just because I'm watching it day by day? I don't feel like their full attention is on it. Adrian suggested it's because they actually took a while for their mortgage to be approved. I think it's quite clear they're not millennial hammerkorps. They're not renting. This is a second home. Nikki disagrees. Nikki thinks that it looks a great deal neater than it used to. There's certainly more grass. I will say that. There's a lot more grass. And while we ponder over the mystery of the perfectionist but a little bit unfocused hammerkorps, let's go and rejoin Taylor as she looks at some elephants in the sun.
Jamie, shame. I feel as though they've been doing some interior work. Every time I see those hammerkorps, they're always in the middle of the nest working on the floor, perhaps. I have no idea what they do in there, but they spend a lot of time around it, and they do a good job of making themselves look busy. Now, sadly, our lions have walked off into the forest, and I can't see them anymore. And the area that they're in is a non-off-roading area, and there's no roads that are actually anywhere in the vicinity. So I'm waiting patiently to see where they pop out, so that I can try and anticipate their movements. But if they stay in there, then that's the end of our lion sighting, I'm afraid. But there are some elephants around. Of course there are. And I think those elephants have actually come from the forest that the lions are now in. And we say this every day. They typically move away from the marsh out in the open and seek a bit of shelter in the forest, especially from all that horrible wind that seems to gust every afternoon, and the odd thunderstorm that comes around. That's probably a nice place to keep. Nice and dry, and it turns quite chilly as well. It's amazing how the temperature changes out here. Like, it was freezing cold this morning. Now the sun is baking down on us, and it's slowly starting to warm up again. Elephants, are you going to be heading across the Mara River into the reserve today, or are you just going to hang around in the marsh? They've still got a fair way to go. But there's no need to rush or first thing in the morning, especially on Sunday as well. There's no traffic, so there's no problem. They can take their time as they meander on towards either the marsh, or sometimes they do cross the Mara River. We've seen that a few times, which is quite cool. Of course, cattle egrets. What would an elephant sighting be in the Mara without cattle egrets flying past or catching up? I wonder if they roost up in the trees nearby the elephants and kind of just follow them around. I mean, typically when egrets are quite social birds, as you've seen, they're very gregarious. They typically do roost up in the same tree and nest in big colonies too. Ariel, you've said that the landscape fascinates you in the Mara. It does exactly the same for me. Everywhere you drive, it's different. I mean, up here, you've of course got lots of shepherd's trees and the Balanites trees, and then you have the pockets of the forests with all the Diospyros and patternwoods, and I don't even know what else is growing in there. There's lots of guarries, big guarries too, bigger than the ones that we see down in SA. And then you have these open grasslands, and then you get to a marshy section, and then another dense line of trees against the Mara River. And then if you go all the way down to the south towards the border of Tanzania, it changes. You start to see some of the acacias, the Acacia tortilis coming into play. Also vast open grasslands. And you get the Inselbergs, a couple of euphorbias. It's honestly, it's so stunning. And I love the luggers down in the south as well, that are all filled with water at the moment. And lots of fallen trees. I'd assume it's courtesy of the elephants. And it becomes quite beautiful. Lots of lotus flowers in those little luggers. It's stunning out here, and that's what I think I'll miss the most. I mean, obviously the wildlife is just unbelievable. I can't compare it to any other wildlife that I've seen. It's very different to the Sabi sand. There's so much out here, but if there aren't any animals around, at least you can always stop and appreciate the view and listen to the most amazing sounds as well. Lots of birds always chirping and insects. Now, Philip, you're wondering if any of the animals have learnt to use the bridges. I'm sure. I'm just trying to think. I mean, the big bridge at Puringat, that's one of the main ones, and that's kind of like in the reserve. So, whereas the Talek Bridge is a gate, and then it's Talek Town. I haven't been down towards the Sekanani opening, and then Mara, and then Musiara Gate. I suppose that's on the Conservancy, so animals can just move past, but there's no big bridge there. So let's talk about the Puringat Bridge then. There's two sections. There's a lower level, sort of more natural, and then there's an upper bridge as well that's made of steel that makes quite a clunky noise when you go over it. So it wouldn't surprise me if something like a leopard, a lion, or a hyena would walk over it, or baboons and vervet monkeys, clambering around, maybe the odd vulture or other bird using it as a perch. However, I don't know if an elephant would walk over the top bridge. I think that noise would actually scare them. Remember, metal is an unnatural sound out here, and often when you ting something, you'll see you get the animal's attention almost instantly. And I'll never forget when walking in the Eastern Cape. It's obviously very thick. A guide that taught me how to walk down there, he often used to carry around with him, and when he'd get to a very thick area, lots of black rhino down there, and we'd have to jump on an animal path, he'd actually just ting the barrel just very slightly, so you just get that cling of the casing on the barrel itself, just to sort of warn anything that we're coming through, and it's an unnatural sound, so they typically would then move away. So I don't know if they would go over that. But a lion and a leopard, it wouldn't surprise me. I've seen cheetah as well walking down the most narrow corridors down at Shaw's Gate in the Sabi Sand, so the last gate, the most southern gate. If you go through there, And there's a fence line that leads you to another property, and it's quite a narrow corridor. And I've seen elephants going through it. I've seen cheetah, leopard, lion. They don't seem to mind that so much. But walking on a bridge that clunks around quite a bit, I don't think would appeal to a lot of the bigger, the heavier animals. They might take the lower one, or just cross the river, in fact. But very cool, very peaceful again out here. I'm still waiting for my lions to pop out. I haven't seen them. Perhaps we'll move on and find the jackals. Tristan is bumbling about down in the Sabi sand, and I think he's arrived at one of my favorite watering holes.
Well, we have arrived at a waterhole. Whether or not it's your favorite, Taylor, I'm not quite sure. But we are at Buffelshoek Dam. We've done loops around everywhere, and we've had very little sign of anything. It is incredibly quiet this morning. It's no real sort of sounds. The bush feels quiet. There's no sort of tracks to work with, and so it's a bit of a sort of strange morning in a way. I don't know. I'm sure we'll pick up something at some point. It's just going to be one of those where we're going to have to work a little bit harder. Now, there is one thing at Buffelshoek Dam that is in the water, but it's being its typical self, and Scuba Steve is busy hiding away at the moment, so you can just see the top of its back every now and then as it sort of moves around, and there's a little line that kind of goes up and down, and that's just the ridge of its back to the sort of left of where that sun is at the moment. And hopefully it'll pop its head up, and they don't hold their breath for all that long, so if we're just patient a little bit, hopefully we will see a hippo head coming up at some point in that general watery vicinity, given that we've got pretty much the whole dam on show. But it seems as though the lions were around here last night. There's tracks for them all over the place here, so I'm not sure which way they went from here. I'll check off the dam wall. I can hear quite a few go-away birds actually making a bit of noise behind me, and I wonder if maybe now there's squirrels going as well. So there's that go-away bird, and there's our hippo as well. There's a squirrel alarm calling and go-away birds alarm calling, which could mean that there's something around. There was an African hawk eagle that flew away as I arrived at the dam, and that could definitely set all of those off, so we'll look around for that. Maybe it's busy flying around. Now, hippo at least is not being as shy as it sometimes can be. He's at least got his head above water at the moment, and is just looking ever so sleepy. It must have been a long night out on the town. At the end of the day, it was a Saturday after all, and so it's suppose Saturday is party day in the hippo world, because this fella looks as though he's very tired, and I suppose after you've been out all night grazing and looking for food, it would be a good thing to start having a nap early in the morning when the sun comes up. So I feel like this little hippo is, well, not little, big hippo, is shortly going to partake in some serious napping as it tries to kind of deal with the hot day before it then starts to move about again in the night. Right, well, as he's disappeared, we're going to take our cue and probably disappear from Buffelshoek Dam as well. We're going to go look around, see what else we can find. While we do that, let's send you back across to Jamie in the Masai Mara.
Got for some of you very quickly before they disappear off. I think for those of you who perhaps don't watch every single day, I mean, obviously we're deeply offended that you don't watch every single day, but for those of you that don't watch every single day, a nice one to add to your bird list, a pair of crowned hornbills that have come out of the forest and have come out into the open. We don't actually get to see them all that often down here, so a really nice one to add to your budding bird lists or your Mara bird lists. Crowned hornbills. So we've seen, I think, which hornbills did we put on camera? We've managed the black and white casqued, grey, red-billed, crowned, ground. Oh goodness, this sounds like an exercise in vowel pronunciation, something that my South African accent does not appreciate. What have I forgotten? Sure, there's another one that we've managed to get on camera that I've forgotten. I cannot remember. But there we go. Something exceptionally pleasant for those of you who are keen birders. Adrian's going to follow it. Yes, Adrian. Very nice. Very, very nice. Beautifully done. And a round of applause, everyone, for Adrian. And now there's a mystery raptor. There is a mystery raptor behind in the tree. It had very much looked like a snake eagle at first when I looked at its posture, but on closer inspection, I'm not 100% convinced. Very yellow bill if it turns its head, and I'm not 100% sure on it. I've got Steve in the back. We're puzzling over exactly which raptor it was. You're going western banded. Can't see. Okay, so we're going western banded snake eagle. So a nice one for those of you to add to your bird lists as well. Okay, we're going to head on. I'm going to find Steve a crowned crane. I've already shown him a mara leopard, so really, it's all off to a good start. Let's jump back across to South Africa and join, I think I heard this correctly, James at Chitwa Dam.
I am at Chitwa Dam, and we are shortly with the greatest French Gabonese Air Force pilot in history going to go to the air. Are we in the air?
I am.
Oh, I'm not getting much feedback from that end. Okay, I'm going to assume we're in the air. Right, we're flying over the dam, and we're going to see if our geese have managed to produce babies yet. No, they haven't. Now, we have got a very special guest on the car today. You will remember the great drone commander Connor Teagues, and he was the one who pioneered filming the eggies in this nest here. And I think there were 24 when we first filmed it, weren't there? He's looking confused. Anyway, none of them seemed to hatch. And then Sebastian found this bunch this year as well. And they too do not seem to want to hatch. And I think that these geese find this nest, they think it's a very good spot to put their eggs, and I don't think they hatch because I think they're far too exposed to the sun.
Yeah.
There's definitely nothing in there. We check them once a week or so, and they just sit there as big eggs. Maybe they're dragon's eggs. They can stay unhatched for centuries. Marvellous. Well, we can probably have a little look over the back of the dam now, I think, up towards the clearings. Should we go towards those waterbuck over there? There we are. That's a magnificent Sunday morning shot, that. It really does give you an idea of the expanse of water that there is here, but also if you look on the shoreline as we go over it, you can see how the shoreline has dropped. There is not a lot of water around, and when Chitwa Dam is starting to sort of recede, then I think very strange weather patterns all over South Africa at the moment, and mostly, of course, dreadful droughts going on in the Western Cape, where Cape Town is going to hit day 0, I believe, on the 9th of April. That means the taps will run dry. Is that not terrifying? One of the world's most iconic cities could run out of water. And I believe that is a taste of things to come. The waterbuck, I'm afraid, have disappeared off towards the north, but we're coming round where we're sitting. We did go down and check for Hosana down below the dam wall there. Unfortunately, I then heard that he is on Little Gowrie, I'm afraid. We're now waving at you, of course. Connor, give us a wave. I know you don't like to be on camera, but give us a wave. There he is. Rombi, of course, does not suffer from the same shyness as his predecessor. Marvellous stuff. Was that not glorious? Okay, well, what I think we're going to do now is head around towards the clearing, see if we can't find some elephants eating on some marulas. Maybe we'll be lucky. I must just tell you that Tamba, the little male leopard who was birthed here on Chitwa, was last seen on the Manyeleti boundary. So he has gone a long, long way north, and I hope he turns on and comes back south again. I suspect probably he's vacated this area because of the pressure exerted on him by Hosana, his, what would he be? It's his cousin. I think. Yes. Good. Okay, let's head across to Tristan, find out where he's going, find out if he's managed to find anything other than sand and dry grass.
Well, I think so, James. I'm busy just looking at them now at the moment.
Okay, let's go.
And it looks like 2 sets of leopard tracks. Now, I'm going to go forward a bit because it's probably going to be better to see them. Now, it's not Tundi and Cub, but I just want to double check them because I know that the lions have been around and that they've walked. But if you look on the right hand side, you can see here there's an absolute thoroughfare of tracks, and those don't look to be big enough to be the sub-adults from the Nkuhumas. Now, I know there is a cub in amongst them, but that cub wouldn't be that size, and it certainly wouldn't be walking on its own. The thing is, though, it looks like 2 male leopards following each other. That's what it looks like. So I'm not 100% sure. They're going towards Buffelshoek Dam. They go all the way to the dam wall, and then they stop there, and I lose them on the dam wall. So I'm just kind of backtracking them a little bit just to double check and make sure of myself. But they certainly do look like 2 male leopards. You can see it's definitely not one. There's far too many tracks for 1 male leopard. So now, who are you and where have you gone and what is the story? Because these tracks are not the freshest either. There's tracks for nocturnal animals like genets on top of them. So it must have been early last night that they walked here. Initially, I thought it was just part of the Nkuhuma pride. That's why I didn't pay too much attention to it. But it definitely looks like these are male leopard tracks. I'm going to have to just double check what's going on. And I see they came here and then turned around and went back the other way. And there's also a track for a lion moving in this area. There's tracks for the Nkuhuma prides all over the place. I'm sure Tinyo walked here as well. So busy time on this road, except it all happened during the night when we were all in our beds sleeping, which is not ideal. But this leopard came from, by the looks of it, came from Torchwood side, because we're right at the Torchwood boundary. So what I want to do is just do a loop around and just go back towards Buffelshoek Dam via the boundary and see if maybe this leopard didn't cross north, or if it in fact actually is still somewhere around Buffelshoek Dam. It's very possible that it could be, but at least that's exciting times. Now, in terms of telling the difference between a male leopard and a lion cub track, it's quite difficult, other than the fact that generally with lion cubs there'll be about, there's going to be a lot more feet, because it's not just the one lion cub that you've got. So there you go, you can see it coming across the boundary very clearly now. So that would be the leopard track that I'm talking about. So it's just here, Sens, there it goes, over that one. So if we had a look at that and we were looking for lion cubs, you would expect there to be multiple sets, not just the one set. So there'd be maybe 4 or 5 sets of them, and if we know in the Nkuhumas there'd be actually 6 sets plus a smaller one, which would be the 7th little cub that's also with them. So the fact that there's only one track that crosses helps you to work out it's a leopard. Also, it's much more round than what we see from the lions. Lions tend to have a little bit more of an elongated track. So the good news is hopefully there's a male leopard around here. We'll try our very best to look for it. While we do that, let's go across to Taylor, who's got something that this leopard would probably like to hunt.
Go, Tristan, it is a bit tricky when you see tracks and, well, you think they are lions, but they're leopards. I'll never forget the one day Karula, Tingana, and Hosana and Shongile had all walked on Vuyotela access, and I was convinced it was the sub-adult Nkuhumas that had come passing by, but it wasn't. It was a family of leopards and a big territorial male. Sometimes you get confused. But we've just stopped. We're on the forest, and it is just so gorgeous. The light, sadly, is fading quicker than I anticipated, but there's the most amazing pockets of light moving through all these tall trees and onto the impala, and there's a couple of waterbuck as well, and who knows what else is lurking around here. I'm sure the odd buffalo or two. It was so stunning, and it really reminds me of Zambia, driving in the early mornings through the Anatree forests, where those trees are massive. And you do only just get the odd pocket of light, and it forms like a beam. If any of you have ever seen those iconic photos from Mana Pools in Zimbabwe of the elephant standing on its back legs with a gorgeous light, that's exactly what the Lozambizi National Park looks like too. And there's always impala around, as there are in most places in Africa, just going about their day. They don't seem too frightened though. Perhaps they haven't spotted a leopard that's maybe hiding away under the bushes or the tops of the trees. I don't know if there's anything just yet, but there's also some hyena. There's lots going on here, and just on our right hand side, crossing the open, which is quite cool. There's 2 of them. Now, one has got a collar on them, and we were chatting last night about this, trying to figure out, the dynamics on who's collared and who's not. Anyways, Ralph said something about, he spoke to one of the researchers, and apparently they don't just collar the matriarchs, they collar then sort of a middle-ranking hyena and a very low-ranking hyena. But she sat down in the grass now. That's not the one with the collar. The one with the collar is actually off to the side. And just speaking about the one with the collar, she had very nice ears. They were not tattered. She didn't look like she had any scars on her face or any tears on her lips. So I think she'd probably be a higher ranking hyena rather than somebody quite low down. But she's just hiding in the grass, not just having a rest. They must have been walking along the Mara River looking for things to feed on. I don't think they were lucky this morning. They didn't actually look too fat either. Normally hyenas always look like they've swallowed a beach ball, kind of like when a lion gorges itself on a meal. But I have a request for all of you while we watch these hyenas, is that since we're driving along the forest, the possibility of forest birds, are inevitable. So what ones would you like to see today? What shall I try and look out for you? Hashtag Safari Live, or chat to us on the YouTube chat. And it would be great to know. I've already heard the scallows, tarocos calling. I wonder what hornbills we may see. Maybe a rose eagle owl resting up in one of these Diospyros trees. But it would be great to hear from you. So maybe there's a bird that you've been waiting to put onto your list. All the way back down towards Serena. Actually, we'll have a little listen. Beautiful. The tropical bobos are chatting quite a bit today. Maybe we'll put one on camera. Anyways, speaking of birds and feathers and sounds that they make, Jamie has got a shrike of sorts.
I do indeed. I have the northern crowned shrikes. So there we go, all gathered together. And I find it fascinating, the differences in behavior that we see out here. It's northern white-crowned shrike, sorry, should have been a little bit more specific there. The differences in behavior that we see when we see them out here in the grassland, all gathered together in these large groups. It's not something that we often get to view for any extended period of time on Djuma. But out first thing in the morning in Kenya, you get a whole host of birds that come out into the open to warm themselves up in the sun after a long, chilly night. And last night was the first night it didn't rain in a considerable period of time, but it was still very dewy when we woke up this morning. So all of the birds' feathers will be a little bit soaked. Well, not soaked, of course. They are largely waterproof, but they will be feeling rather damp and rather cold. That was the hornbill that we've been talking about, because James wants to know on the subject of various hornbills that we've seen in the Mara, wants to know if I've seen a Van Dekken's hornbill yet. And the answer is I have, but I have not been able to ever put it on camera, and I've actually not seen it in the Mara yet. I haven't seen it around here. I have seen it in Sabi. We actually spent ages watching a pair of that particular species of hornbill, the Van Dekken's hornbill, nesting in a baobab. And it was amazing to watch because the female was still in the nest with the chicks. And it was just the male that was busy carrying food to and from for her. And he worked. It was hot in Sabi when we were there. It must have been well over 30 degrees, probably closer to 35, which for us now in Kenya is quite hot. We're unaccustomed to low felt heat. And he was going all day, backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards, feeding his family in the baobab tree. Oh, I know it's not the right place for them, but can you imagine if we had baobabs here in the Mara? Imagine how striking the views would be. it of course is entirely the wrong kind of habitat for them. There are lots and lots of them around Savo. Makes it unbelievably beautiful, very, very dry. Totally different to the boggy, soggy Mara. A roller dive, was the roller dive bombing them, or was it just making a fuss? Okay, we're going to move on, see if we can at least complete the route towards the hyena den. Let's jump back on with Taylor and have a look at the same hornbill that apparently we saw earlier.
Yeah, you did. It's the crowned hornbill, Jamie, and I was talking about, I wonder what hornbills we're going to see, and I heard it before I saw it. Now, they're one of my favorite species. I really like watching them, and I think the reason why I love them so much is because it's the first species of hornbill I got to know as a guide. And down in the Eastern Cape of South Africa, they frequent the lodges. They're everywhere. They're the most common species. And I've told the story many times, how they'd come into camp, and as the waiters were setting up the breakfasts, they'd always go for the cheese. I don't know what it is with hornbills and cheese, because there's no cheese out here in the wild. Unless they've figured out some way to make it. I highly doubt it, though. That's just me being silly. But they'd come in for the cheese and the fruit and nothing else. And then they'd peck the mirrors, of course, as you can imagine. And we have a pair now that come around camp and they peck the windows on James's studio. They sit out there, which is quite nice. But there's lots of birds in this Diospirus tree. So we've also got some, just to the left, there's some lilac-breasted rollers bouncing about too. There was a pair of them. Now, they're not eating the fruit. Not like the hornbill, of course. The hornbill will be in this tree to feed on the fruit. I think they're just drying out their feathers. They look a little bit damp. Well, how perfect is that? Fluff, you were wanting to see rollers. Well, here we go. You have a pair of them just sitting up in this tree, which is quite nice. And then, of course, for anybody that were wanting to see a crowned hornbill, there's 3 of them. How fantastic. That's lovely. Now, that's not all that's here. We've got a juvenile batelier as well, just sitting up to the right of the tree, which is a bird that we see often. We see a lot more down in the Sabi sand. Can you get it? Or is it just out of frame? Is it just awkwardly out of frame? Oh, no, you've got it. There it is. Up, 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 up. There we go. Now, with the bateliers, this doesn't look like a batelier because you're going to say it's brown, but it's a juvenile. You can see, look at that. There's a very short tail. You're doing a bit of a yawn. Quite a big head as well, like a snake eagle. Now, even though we're looking at a kind of eagle, I've completely forgotten. Please, can I have all that again? Megan or Nikki? Let me tell you that the goldfish syndrome is on form this morning. Please, may I have... Ron, there we go. I don't know why I completely forgot your name, Ron. Ron, you were wondering if I could find a crowned eagle. Well, we'll try. I haven't seen a crowned eagle for quite some time. Well, the last time I saw him was... maybe a month ago. It landed, actually, it was incredible. It landed above me. I'd gone for a walk, and in this massive tree. I think they might have been nesting up there, and landed down in the tree, and I just sat there very quietly. I also had a pair of African emerald cuckoos bouncing around too, which was pretty spectacular. That was a great birding morning, and this juvenile batelier is quite lucky sitting up here, not being mobbed by any drongos or any other birds. Which I'm always find when the raptors perch themselves, there's some small bird that's not happy with them being around and bop them on the heads a couple of times. Very cool. But there are lots of bateliers up here, I have found. Oh, very cool. Well, it seems as though we're having a birding morning in the Mara. Let's go to Jamie to see what she's got.
Hey! That's not very considerate of you at all. I have a Coqui Franklin that's decided for some reason that my vehicle is very interesting, but is accompanied by a whole load of little Coqui Franklins. Though a family of Coqui Franklins, Mum and Dad are both here. Dad is currently walking under my car. What are you doing, you silly thing? Okay. Alright, now he's under my car. Hopefully he comes out the other side at some point, otherwise we're stranded here, possibly forever. We may never be able to move. So there we go, Cokie Franklin chicks. He's back out again. Making tiny little contact calls. I don't think you're going to be able to hear them. And they've got 1, 2, 3, 4 chicks that I saw. Oh! Hopping. And flying to go and catch up with Dad. You can see just how well camouflaged these little chicks are. Obviously, as they start to grow up, they'll get the more striking facial markings of their parents. But, oh, what was that all about? Well done. You caught a small shrub. Very impressive. Obviously, it pays for them at this point to remain almost undetectable. And it's astounding how well those sorts of markings on bird feathers really work to break up the outline. There goes one of the adults, and the little chicks are going to follow it in. For a bird that lives largely sort of right in these thick grassy patches, those sorts of markings are absolutely perfect. Because as the sun shines through the grass, creating shadows, these little things, if they stay still, can basically disappear. Something that makes our cameramen have to work exceptionally hard when they're not out in the open. I don't think you'll be able to hear the contact calls. They're just a little bit too soft. Very, very soft calls. They don't want to draw attention to themselves, but they have to stay together in the long grass. And it involves a tricky balance. That they can keep track of their brood. Mum and Dad can keep track of their brood, get them to follow them, and remain hidden. And there we go. Everyone's gone. Oh, I apologize. This morning the comms are particularly shaky. Virginia said they look like some kind of grouse, I think, which would be, I suppose, a sort of a good comparison. We've got ground birds. A Cokie Franklin is probably this big. Maybe at the top of its head that big, but I mean its body is about that big, so they're actually quite small, compact little birds. But I do see the comparison, and I suppose in terms of similarities one could compare them and of course our sandgrouse species as well. I'm not sure exactly what it is that Taylor's up to, but let's go and join her to find out where she is and what she's doing. It's me again. Taylor was unable to hear Megan, so we're obviously having a slight problem with our ability to communicate with each other or with one another. I know Taylor was struggling yesterday. Nikki thinks it's quite hilarious. So that's me. Let's go look for some more birds, because chances are that's what we're going to find in this particular stretch of road. As to where the Owinyo Pride has gone, they've disappeared just as neatly and effectively and quickly as our comms have this morning. Okay, well, we attempt to regain control in the Mara. Let's go and join Steph and ask him if he'll hug a tree.
This is one of the biggest green thorns that are around here. You find a very similar species to this particular green thorn in the Mara, but they don't get as big as these beautiful ones that we find over here. This is the, whoa. Come and have a look here. There's what I thought was a python, but it's actually a monitor lizard that's inside there. VM having a good chuckle there. That is a massive monitor lizard inside this green thorn. Gee whiz. How is that? Obviously it heard us coming, it was basking, and now it just decided to hide inside there and is a bit stuck. He won't go anywhere. He's got teeth and claws and tail to protect himself, and he's inside one of the hardwood trees here. It'll take an elephant to get him out of there, and quite an effort at that. But he is a beautiful white-throated monitor and about as big as what they get at the moment. And you don't find many that are bigger than him. Don't get too close to his tail. You can see that his tail's curled up in an S shape. They can whip their tails, and they can whip it with enough force to actually make a cracking noise like a child's whip or a cattle whip. And lashed across the face or through the eyes, it can actually, I don't know if it'll do any damage, but it definitely is quite startling, and for a would-be predator, definitely a deterrent. Hello there, man. Looks like a female. She's big enough. Her skin's busy coming off, so she's busy shedding as well. Hello. Wow, what a cool find. It's quite nice. Yeah, AB, you were just saying good reason not to hug a tree. I think that's what VM was trying to get me to do, and then get a fright. Yeah, I got a big fright anyway. I just saw this tail, and I thought, wow, I got a python about to strike me on top of my head. All right, but what I'm going to show you with this, and what I originally wanted to show you with this greenthorn, is the fact that we can get some breakfast from it. The fruit of the greenthorn are just on the tree over there, and silhouetted against the sky. You'll notice that there are some sultana or sized fruit that are on there. I'm going to try and get some down, so watch your heads. All right, maybe not with that throw. Let's do this one. And that's how you miss an entire tree. I'll eventually get it right. Give me his... All right, you got one, thankfully. So they come off of the tree looking like these rather dried up, horrible looking truffle-like things. But as soon as you peel back the skin, the fruit comes out. So as soon as you peel back the dried up black skin, the fruit comes out, and barring there's any insects around that are in it, worms and such, you can expose it like this. And then you can pop it into your mouth. So this one, as you can see, evidenced by that hole there, has had the seed already eaten by a caterpillar of sorts that's pupated inside or wasp, quite easily. Pupated inside the capsule and would have used the very fatty seed, the very oily seed, as a food source. So this unfortunate seed is not able to produce a baby greenthorn anymore, and so the only real use for it now is as a breakfast snack. You can take off the pulp. It tastes exactly like what did you say, Vivian? A sultana or dried grape? Yeah. Dried fruit, dried apricot or dried peach. Very tasty in actual fact. Then you can have, it's going to take you forever to get enough to have a proper meal, but the sugar content in here is high, and it'll probably give you a bit of an energy boost. And you can see you can shave off the fruit from the nut, popping it in to your mouth, and then, when you've had enough, I must be honest, it doesn't get tasty as it gets close to the seed. It starts to lose some of its sweetness. The sweetness definitely lies closer to the skin. That obviously is now the end of this, and you can discard it. And then if you feel athletic, you can get some more. Now, Josh, you say it doesn't look very tasty. Agreed with you. When I first fed VM one of these things, he's not going to put that stuff in his mouth. And then it doesn't actually taste too bad. It's a very sweet kick initially. Tastes like a fruit preserve, in a fruit cake. It's a very sugary, very sweet taste, and it sort of degrades into this bitter taste that coats the back of your tongue. And so you don't want to eat too many of them, I don't think. But they're not bad. Considering there's nothing much out here except for these things, it's not too bad. All right, we're going to carry on looking along the riverbed here. This is the area that Thandi moved into The last time we had tracks of her, which admittedly wasn't recently, but she'll be here somewhere with that cub, and we just need to find some fresh tracks of her. In the meantime, we're going to be going all the way north over to Taylor and what she's got to show you.
Whatever that seed may have been that you were devouring, it sounds delicious, and I wish you could send someone up to the Mara. However, we've got something that could potentially be delicious, but I don't think I'm going to try it. And well, I'm the kind of girl that likes a fun guy. But these mushrooms, I'm not quite sure as to what they are. And as most of you know, it's best to just leave the fungi alone, especially if you don't know what it is. However, this just brings back great memories, and now I'm all of a sudden starving and missing South Africa. Every now and then, one of you send through a question about what do I miss most about home, about South Africa. And well, here's a recipe for all of you. Take one of those big, beautiful brown mushrooms, the biggest ones you can get. Make a nice fire, charcoal, wood preferably, and basically put a grill on top. And then all you have to do is get some butter, melt it down, or maybe saute the butter and garlic together, and then pour that over the mushroom. Add some feta cheese, sprinkle that on top, and thin slices of biltong. Whatever flavor biltong you'd like, if you want a little bit of chili, and then put that on the fire and let it cook. Oh my goodness, it is delicious. The smokiness that comes through from the wood as well, it really just engulfs the entire mushroom in that flavor. And then of course biltong, the feta cheese, the garlic and the butter. Oh, it's so delicious. You have to try that. That's one of my favorite things. And it's funny enough, a year ago today, you know those wonderful memories on Facebook that pop up? Rebecca and I were in White River in South Africa, and we were actually making these mushrooms for dinner, which is quite funny. Something just popped up for over the last few days, in fact, and that was one of the memories. So now firstly I'm hungry. I'm now also missing home, and then thankful for all the places that I've been able to travel. I don't know if something has eaten it or maybe something has stood on it. I would imagine if an elephant came through, I don't think they would feed on these. Maybe a little one would pick it up. It could be a nice toy to throw around. And I think they get stood on quite a bit. I was also wondering if a warthog would eat something like this. I don't think so. I've never seen a warthog nibbling on a mushroom. But they definitely all turned up. Well, whatever happened to these mushrooms, oh well. Good luck, you'll turn into compost, something will devour you, maybe the termites will eat you, who knows. But James is down in South Africa, and seen as though elephants seem to be a trend this morning, let's go and see if he's going to have an up-close personal encounter with them.
Tortoise. And there is Ronald, you can see. Now, as we got here, someone said, well, are elephants scared of tortoises? Because we know that they're afraid of mice, which of course was just a joke, but clearly they are afraid of tortoises. That was hilarious. Poor little tortoise is obviously after the same thing that the elephant is, and that's marula fruits. Anyway, let's go across to Ronald's feed and have a look at him. See what he can see of this elephant. There's Ron. Oh no! That's horrible!
No, man.
I can't believe that.
Oh.
He's destroying this tortoise. That is dreadful. That really makes one feel very little affection for this very nasty kind of thing. So you didn't see there, but what he did was he kicked the tortoise. And I don't know if he stomped on him or her, but Ronald is now frozen in terror that the same fate might befall him. And you can see Ronald has got an entirely new get-up. He's sort of got ready for TV. You can see he's got a wooden frame now. It's camouflaged. It's got a special grid at the back. And this elephant, which is behaving in a manner not unlike that of a spoilt child, well, is producing some fear for him. Let's go back to Ronald's picture and have a look at what Ronald can see. There we are. You can just see this quite astounding pictures there. This elephant eating marula fruits. Now the tortoise is behind the elephant. I'm going to suggest that we do not drive Ronald behind the elephant to see if he can spot the tortoise just yet. I think given the very poor attitude of this elephant, we should leave Ron exactly where he is. He hasn't reacted to the at least to the rover at all. But jeepers, he did not enjoy that tortoise, did he? I mean, I'll be astounded if that tortoise has survived that. It was a really hard kind of petulant kick. Yes, Ian, you say Ellies are pretty good at making other critters into paste. They are pretty good at that sort of thing, given their size. I believe, actually, that, on a rather morbid note, in India, they used to train elephants for execution. So if you were a particularly naughty person, you'd have your head put on a block, and an elephant, rather like a sort of more modern circus elephant, would rear up on its back legs and then stomp on your pip, as it were. And, well, that obviously resulted in a fairly swift demise. The same tortoise, same fate befell this tortoise. I don't think he stood on it. I think he just kicked it. But the dexterity of its trunk, just amazing. I think we'll leave Ronald sitting precisely where he is. Oh, there's the tortoise now. We've got the tortoise on the main camera. I don't see any movement there. Not that you'd expect to see sort of breathing. Let me see with my binoculars if I can't see the head or feet coming out. There's some movement there. Ha! How fantastic. The tortoise has survived. Well, I don't know if it's uninjured. But it seems to be relatively alive. Shame. Now what we need is a little sort of gentle taser on Ronald so that he can give the elephant a little bit of a disciplinary shock on the ankles. Bzz. I think that would be a mistake. I think the elephant would take great offence at that. Look how many marulas he's eating. And how amazingly dexterous that trunk is.
So greedy.
So greedy, says Seb. Most of those, of course, will come out completely intact. And for those of you who are experiencing your first marula season, these marula fruits cannot germinate, apparently, unless they have passed through the digestive system of an elephant. And it is the most astounding kind of convergent evolutionary process here, where the tree has learnt that in order to be most effective, what it needs to do is drop the fruits on the ground before they ripen, so that the elephant doesn't push the tree over in order to get at the fruit that it loves so much. Now, Dances with Dirt, what a wonderful name, Dances with Dirt. You say, how old is this elephant? Well, your clue, apart from his size, obviously, and the normal things we look at, your clue is the way he reacted to that tortoise. You'll probably find that largely elephants over the age of 25 wouldn't have done that to a tortoise. I would put this guy between 18 and 20 years old, just kind of a bit petulant still. He's young, he is frustrated, I suppose, because he's been tossed out of the herd. He doesn't have any friends. And so, unfortunately, anything that gets in his way that is smaller than him is going to bear the brunt of his frustrations. Oh, David, you say how many knees? I thought you said how many leaves. How many knees does an elephant have? Oh dear, don't turn to Ronald now. An elephant has got 2 knees, same as you. And that's not what we're looking at there. What you're looking at, no, that's perfectly all right, because most people think of what we looked at there as the knee. No, that's an elbow. You've got to go to the back leg. Yeah, that's the knee there. So that's the knee joint, okay? And it's interesting, I love this discussion. So there's the knee, and if you go down the leg there, you can see there's the ankle, bends the same way as ours, and then the toe bones, they extend into that flat foot there. Then if we go to the front, I'll explain to you what that knee joint is that Sebastian identified as the knee. That is the wrist. That is exactly the same joint as your wrist, and if we follow up from there, there is the elbow, and then of course the shoulder is slightly hidden. There we go, inside there. So just about all mammals have got bones that are, well, in fact all mammals have got bones that are easily identifiable on all other mammals, although they will be, of course, of different shapes. Oh dear. Oh dear. Please do not hit that thing. Please, I beg you, leave him alone. No. No, no. Oh no. Oh dear. Well, Ronald's okay still. No, don't stand on it. No, no, no. No, please. Oh no. Just leave him be. He's not moving, he's not doing anything. I can't believe Ronald is still looking. His view is unhindered, which means his new casing is obviously extremely effective, courtesy of Conrad and Scott Dyson. So big congratulations to them. I think we're going to hope desperately that this elephant disappears from here, or maybe we should just back Ronald off. I think let's back him off. We'll just quietly move him back. Yeah, let's just keep moving him back there. That's nice. You can see us behind there. No, he's leaving. He's leaving. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Now he can't move. Now this of course was always going to be one of the risks that Ronald faced. And he's had a tough time with elephants before. They have kicked him over and into water at one stage. But isn't it interesting how he reacted to the tortoise in precisely the same way? So he's obviously a frustrated, spoilt little brat, this fellow, in need of a good thrashing from a big bull. Poor old Ron. At least, well, Ronald's still got a picture, which means he's still functioning perfectly well. Yes. Okay, we're going to try desperately to extract Ronald from this rather sticky situation. While we do that, let's head across to Tristan Dix, who I have no doubt will be in fits of hysterical laughter.
Well, James, I feel sorry for poor Ronald. He's had a really tough start to 2018. He's been manhandled by elephants is never the best way to start the year, and so poor little Ronald. I'm looking forward to seeing the footage of Ronald being kicked about and see how he ended up, especially since Ronald has got a lower profile now. I feel like Ronald is not as top heavy, so I wonder if it went barreling and somersaulting or what happened. So I'll have to ask James for that a little bit later. Now, you all might be wondering why I am going through the bush just randomly driving around. Well, the reason is because we found quite fresh tracks for the Nkahuma Pride with the cubs, especially the small cub is here with them, and they moved in this direction. Now no tracks come out on the other side, and so I'm just going through the block on the last tracks that I had in a rough direction that they were following, in the hope that I'm just going to bump into them somewhere in this area, because they must be sleeping somewhere inside here. So it's just a random. I'm also looking for tracks as I go, because there are softer sections where tracks can be left behind, and so maybe I can pick up some of the tracks inside here, and then we can try and kind of find these lines wherever they may be. But I feel like they are not far. I think they're somewhere in here. It's just going to be a bit of a lottery as to whether or not I just drive in the exact way that they walked, or if I lose their tracks quite quickly. Now the important thing is to try and find sort of prominent game paths and then follow those game paths along, because generally if you get onto good game paths, you can often find that the tracks come onto that game path at some point. They might not be right away, but in a few sort of meters or a few 100 meters, you then start to pick them up coming onto those areas. So while I'm driving, I'm just trying to look at any little sandy section and trying to see if I can spot anything. The other thing that I'm looking for is heads just popping up, because as I off-road like this, lions tend to be quite curious at times, and they'll just, especially the young ones, they'll pop their heads up just to see what's going on and to have a little look around. So I'm relying on that and hoping that's going to be the case. Now I've come to an area where I don't think I'm going to be able to get through that easily. Let's try this side. And so while I try and negotiate this little thicket and this little block and see what's going on in here, whether or not I can find these lions, let's send you back across to Jamie Patterson, who I have no idea what she's up to.
Okay, so you've had elephants knocking about poor Ronald all over the show, and we've got some very peaceful elephants to recover from that moment, while James attempts to calm down our amazing tech team, who I'm sure he owes a good cup of coffee when he returns this morning. Look at this lovely old girl. Isn't she beautiful? She really is. I mean, she is the oldest elephant in this herd. She's a very, very old girl. And you can see it quite clearly. Her skin looks too big for her body. Her shoulders are protruding. You can see the sort of sunken areas around her bottom jaw as well. All signs of an elephant that has reached not quite the end of her life, but certainly, let's put it this way, her golden years. If I had to guess, 50 plus. I don't know exactly how old she is, but that's how old I would guess she is. Which would make her the oldest elephant in this herd by far. And probably, from what I can see, the last remaining member of her generation in this herd. Although she is with her family, and of course breeding herds for our new viewers are all related. You've got females with their daughters, their sisters, their mothers, their grandmothers. All the elephants in a herd, breeding herd like this, are connected in their precious family unit. But all of the other elephants from her generation are gone. She is the last remaining one, which means that within her herd will be her daughters most likely, her nieces as well, maybe a younger sister or two. I know. Justin, it's the first thing I always think of when I see elephants like this. Justin says, oh, the stories she could tell. I'm sure she could tell us a great deal. I'm sure she has a great deal of wisdom. She might tell the same story twice, every now and again, but it makes it even more valuable the second time. Okay, we have got a vehicle coming through. They're going to move past. Now, Monique, you want to know... Molly, sorry. You want to know why it is that she has such large shoulders. So she doesn't. She's actually... This is quite a good opportunity. As she walks across the road. Let me put my head down. There we go. So now we're looking at her shoulders. Molly wants to know why they're so large. They're not much larger than your average elephant, but bear in mind, just as will happen to all older mammals, she's losing subcutaneous fat under her skin layer. You know how the skin of older people is often thin and prone to injury. So she's lost subcutaneous fat, she's lost elasticity in her skin, and it's basically draped over her like a material that's been through the wash too many times and has just stretched out a little bit. And it's stretched thin over the bones of her face and then sort of draped over her shoulders and over her hip bones. And she's continued to grow throughout her life, and she's now really reaching the end. She'll be on her last set of teeth, which also means that she probably can't chew her food properly. And so she's not getting the nutrients that would be necessary to sustain her. And slowly but surely her decline will continue until she moves to an area where there's soft food, she can't keep up with her family anymore. And while they will wait for her, eventually it will get to the point where she can't get up and keep up with them. Which is a sad thought, but she's lived a long and very happy life. And her legacy lives on in her elephant herd. Now, it's hard to tell if she'd be still acting as the acting matriarch. And once elephants do reach a certain age, often you'll find that one of the younger females, still mature, but younger females, will take over once their health starts to fail. And she'll be moving along in the rear. Okay, while our old lady manages to catch up with the rest of our herd, let us go and catch up with Steph and see where he's walking off to next.
Talking about old ladies, and isn't that just a sad story from Jamie with the elephant that is reaching the end of its last set of teeth and basically only going to be able to eat what you're looking at the moment, or we're looking at the moment with that buffalo thorn that VM is showing you. They'll only really be able to chew the smallest, most tender shoots. And that in turn gives rise to the fact that, it adds some validity to the stories of elephant graveyards. Once that elephant that you're having a look at, her last set of teeth is worn away and she's just got some gums left, and she's basically just eating the softest, most tender shoots, she's not going to be able to get the amount of nutrition that she needs from walking with the herd and walking through bush, very similar to this. She's going to need to move into areas where soft vegetation is prevalent, and that is usually on floodplains of large rivers. Now, floodplains of large rivers, of course, get flooded from time to time, and if old elephant go there because they're drawn to the soft vegetation and eventually succumb to being stuck in the mud, or if the river dries up or whatever, and die on or close to those river courses, floodwaters collect bones in eddies and on mud flats, and over time, as the river changes course and as the river grows and matures, you'll have these bone deposits of elephant in these eddies and in these wallows. And when people come and excavate there, of course, people and rivers are synonymous with one another because of the fantastic arable ground, and people come to till the ground to grow their crops. Quite often they start to unearth these patches of bones, and it led to their belief that elephants have graveyards and that they will go to these graveyards to die. And it's not untrue, but at least now you have a little bit more fact about where that comes from, and that's the unfortunate story of that elephant, where that elephant is headed to. Now, JB, you were asking about that story about elephant graveyards, so I'm glad I got to answer that for you today. And it was nice to actually see it with Jamie. As sad as what it is to see an old lady like that, it is part of things out here. And you know, if there were just a never-ending stream of elephant, there wouldn't be any of these plants lying around. Today's been quite an interesting walk, I must be honest with you. VM and I haven't seen each other in about 2 months, and so we've been catching up on all the news in and around the place. But it's also allowed us to walk into quite some special places. And one of the most special places is this Tamboti thicket. Now, we do come visit it at times. And in actual fact, it's one of my favorite thickets here. And you can see that with the lack of water and the vegetation creeping down, that we can actually walk through here. A couple of weeks ago when I was here in November, December, I wasn't able to walk through here at all. And now I am. And as you'll see from that angle that you're at the moment, there's a lot of elephant dung. Now, the reason why there's a lot of elephant dung in this tamboti thicket is that the shade is complete here. And although elephants don't eat tamboti, they will come and stand in tamboti thickets to get out of the heat of the sun and then also escape insects. These tambotis are fantastic as insect repellents. As the elephant push through here, the juice comes out of the leaves, coats their skins, and is a repellent for insect pests and parasites. Isn't it just lovely? Nice to be in these things. They're always quite calm and peaceful, these glades. Right, we're still on the lookout for Thandi and for any track of any leopard. In actual fact, I think myself and Tristan are having the same luck today. In the meantime, I think we are going to be sending you over to James and the drone.
Well, we're still sitting here with our elephant. We managed to retrieve Ronald. He's back on the bonnet of the car. That means the herd, if you're in the United States. There he is. He's a little bit worse for wear. I mean, I won't say that he's entirely okay, but I think he's survived pretty well. Now, we've got a question about what a marula fruit tastes like. I'm afraid I missed the name. It tastes like a marula fruit. There's nothing else in the world that tastes like a marula fruit. It has the consistency of, well, the kind of, I guess a little bit like a lychee, or what some people call a lychee, except that the flesh is very much less. So it's got proportionately far less flesh, but really nothing else tastes like it. It's quite a kind of almost floral taste to it, if you like, and very sweet, very they can be quite tart, very high in vitamin C. So sweet and tart, and a kind of floral taste to them. They don't taste like citrus at all. That's the best I can do, I'm afraid. Let's have a look back at our elephant there. And you know, we came and we rescued Ronald, and the rescue of Ronald didn't have that elephant reacting in the slightest. Then some waterbuck came up here, and they got chased away. He got very angry with them. Dora, you say, why do the elephants love these things if they don't even taste them? I imagine they taste quite a few of them. You know, they do bite into them, although they don't kind of swallow and savor them. I think, you know, many of the things that we think taste good are good for us. In other words, they have some kind of nutritional benefit. And that is the case for the marula fruit and the elephant. So I think you'll find that although you know, they enjoy eating them, they make them feel good in some way, it's not necessarily the taste. You know, we have got a far more sophisticated taste system than most animals in the world, and so I think you'll find it's probably got not a huge amount to do with taste and much more to do with the effect that the animals, or that the marula fruits, have on these animals. Okay. I think he's going to wander off probably down towards the so we can get a better view. Well done, Ronald. You did a very good job today. Survived admirably. Also some waterbuck just up ahead there that he chased off. He wasn't going to share anything with anyone today. Let's have a look at the waterbuck. There they are. Very nice. Young bull. And there are guinea fowl absolutely enjoying their Sunday morning as well, because they're going from one elephant dung pile to the other, fossicking about inside, pulling out the insects and all sorts of other things that they can find to eat inside the elephant dung. I don't think that will include marulas, but it may include some grass seeds and certainly a number of insects. Interestingly, the day has turned slightly overcast. which is quite promising for us, given the tremendous heat of the summer most of the time. There we are. Well done, Seb. Alrighty, let's move a little bit forward. There's another marula tree up ahead of us. Is anybody getting comms?
Yeah.
Ah, there we are. I've got them now. Okay, we're going to spend another few minutes here. I'm really speaking superb English today. Let's go back across to Tristan and find out if, in addition to the grey clouds, he has found some more grass and dust.
Indeed, James, I have found all the grass and dust one could ever hope for and wish for, and very little else. So, no luck with our Angamas yet. I still think we will find them. It's just going to be a little bit of a challenge, and I'm sure they'll be here somewhere. They definitely haven't come any further west, and so they must be somewhere in this block on my right hand side. But what we have spotted, which is the first animal that I have actually seen today,